Have you ever found yourself wanting to escape from the camera or dreading being photographed, especially on those days when you are just not feeling your best? Or perhaps like me, you've been surprised by professional photos of yourself that somehow don't quite capture the essence of who you are. If you're a woman over 40, chances are you face these frustrations that often makes you shy away from the camera lens. If this sounds familiar, you're in for a treat with today's conversation featuring Tia Haygood. In our chat, we explore how women over 40 can reclaim their presence, break free from social norms and expectations, and discover their unique radiance, even amidst the challenges of perimenopause and menopause. Our guest here is a highly regarded portrait and event photographer, and she's here to share her top 3 tips on looking your best on camera and shedding those self-doubts that might often accompany being photographed. So without further ado, let's jump right in. Welcome to Menopause Wonders Show, and today we have a very special guest, Tia Haygood, and we're going to talk about how to look good and feel good on camera, even if you're going through challenges like perimenopause or menopause. So hi, Tia. Welcome to our show.
Hello. I'm so happy to be here amongst your audience, Miyako. It's great. I'm not yet of menopause or even premenopausal age, but I do work with a lot of women who are in that stage or past that stage even.
Yes, exactly. Tia Haygood is very popular event and also a portrait photographer. And she's not only taking photo, but also have more idea on creating your brand through portrait. And that's what she does. And she's based on Japan. What I wanted to bring Tia in this show is that yes, our community is women over 40 experiencing perimenopause and menopause, but at the same time, we want to feel good about ourselves during these challenging times. And one of the things that I faced that even when I'm feeling tired, or maybe I don't have that energy of glow on our face.
Exactly.
But we have to be on photo. Or some of the parties, they take photo everywhere, and I'm not feeling good. so that is a kind of challenge that a lot of women going through and maybe facing right now. And Tia, even though you are much earlier stage of perimenopause or even menopause, you are helping a lot of women over 40. You are helping in a way not only to take photo like a superficially, just to take a good look and makeup or whatever, but you are coming from the perspective of having their inner glow alive. And that's exactly this Menopause Wonders show is wanting to take much of that, to share that insight or wisdom with the audience. So I'm super excited, dear. So could you let us know what brought you into this world of photography? Because I'm just really curious.
Thank you so much again for your question. So how did I become a photographer? It's a long journey, and it started with my grandmother. So my grandmother, she was like the family photographer. She had her film camera, and it was an old Kodak's camera. And it was an late 80s camera. It was just like this. It looked like a chocolate bar.
I love it.
She had it with her everywhere. Anytime we went to a cookout, anytime we went to a recital, she had that camera. And over the course of just me getting older, the camera turned into a point and shoot digital camera. And now I saw her last month in September. It's now her smartphone.
Wow.
But yeah, she just always documented the who's who at the party or at the outing. And that really interested me. And I asked for my own camera when I was in middle school. And I got my first camera. I was 13 years old in 8th grade, and it was an SLR film camera. And I took that everywhere, and I took some photography classes in high school and then later in college. And it was just always a hobby for me. It was something that allowed me to document the space that was around me and the people who were around me. And of course, being in Japan, it's such a photogenic country that you have to document everything. And I guess the second part of that question, how did I make it into a business, was just being so in awe of documenting just travel photography, portrait photography, food photography, event photography. I thought maybe I'll make this something that I could do for a career. And I met my husband. Well, he wasn't my husband at the time, but I met him, and he's a 5-time entrepreneur who started businesses and then ran them and then sold them. And so when we crossed paths, he thought, oh, you're really good at this photography thing. Maybe you should start a business.
Wow.
And I thought that was silly because I didn't know anything about business, and I definitely didn't know how to do business in Japan. So to his credit, he did mentor me and train me for 8 months on how to do that and how to register my business. So in 2016, on April 1st, I was open for business.
Wow, amazing. I'm so curious also to know about your current interest, how you come to help or you are come to focus a lot of women's portrait through your experiences, especially based in Japan. You have a daily opportunity to take photos, and they're like a branding shot for like high prestige women like Helen Iwata, our mutual friends. And those are coaches or executives. And you come to understand something is happening in them, right? And I think some of the points that you will bring out today will be something that resonate with us all. Could you share a little bit about how you came to understand or perceive these issues?
Yes. How did I come to really champion the idea of giving women, especially women who are like Helen and women who are in the coaching industry, the legal industry, the tech industry, the ability to feel empowered in the chance that they may not feel empowered. Fun fact, Helen was my very first customer.
Oh,
so that's the first thing I want to point out. So
yeah,
shout out to Helen Iwata.
Yes,
she was my very first
Helen
customer.
Iwata.
And she was actually the person who came up with the idea of Top Tia photography. When we first met, my original studio name was just Tia KH photography.
I see.
Which is very typical of a photographer to just use their name as the name of the studio. But Helen, being ever so clever with language, she noticed that my name being Tia, if you use it as a wordplay or dejade in Japanese, it's tier. So Top Tia photography.
Oh, yes.
And I thought that was so clever.
So clever.
And very ambitious of me to live up to the name.
Yes. By the way, just for the viewers, Helen Iwata is a women's success coach. And you might be following Helen Iwata for her very valuable insight on her podcast. But you can check it out on Helen Iwata.
Focusing on women like Helen, people who are experienced, people who are seasoned in their industry, people who maybe they're in an executive role, they're in a managerial role, or they're in let's say, a kind of boutique style business. They were, or these women are typically who I tend to photograph in my studio. We'd have a consultation and I would have that opportunity to learn about this person's life, their lifestyle, what their goals are, what their clients' goals are. And then we take that information and create a photo session based on that 1-hour conversation. And what I was finding was I would do the story, I would listen to the story, and someone had this wonderful story of their life's work or how they came to Japan or how they came to be this amazing, let's say, executive person in tech or this partner in a law firm, or I'd hear these amazing stories. And then we get to tailoring the photo session and there would be this backtrack of, oh, I need to lose 10 pounds. Oh, I'm not really good at being photographed. Oh, I just had 4 kids. Oh. And in the beginning, we just had this great story building, and now it's just like the regression. And I always just wondered, but wait a minute, you're this phenomenal person. Why are we backtracking? Why are we self-deprecating ourselves,
Wow.
in building the photo session?
Mm-hmm.
And so when I'm hearing the story, I'm hearing this great character arc. But when we're putting the session together, it's like this character regression. and
Oh,
I
that's
felt really,
interesting, right?
yeah, it was really shocking to me.
Mm.
It shows that maybe even though their story and what they've overcome and grew into is great, but maybe when they look at themselves physically, maybe they don't think of themselves as great. And it was really heartbreaking for me because I understand where those influences or those negative influences come from. They come from
Mm,
what we see in magazines and what we see on
right.
TV.
Let's talk
Hmm,
about the point that you first raised about
yes.
there's a gap between how people around you see yourself as a really successful, prestigious career women, like business women, professional.
Mhm,
And they think that you have a lot of confidence about your career, your achievement through life, and you're raising kids, beautiful family,
mhm,
partnership, whatever. But when it comes to, okay, now is the time to take your photo
mhm,
with Tia, and
mhm.
you thought those like a regression is coming in a positive way of more of the enlightening.
Exactly.
Now that they are hiding somewhere and they think that, okay, oh, I'm not really good on camera or whatever the reason. So do you think that came from their self-talk that they're having?
I think the origins of that negative self-talk comes from different sources depending on
Mm-hmm.
the person. It can come from negative influences at work, negative
Mm-hmm.
influence in the home, negative influence among friends, negative influences, what they're consuming in terms of media. I know a common narrative, and this is me leaning towards a non-Japanese space in Japan,
Mm-hmm.
is the fact that our bodies are not particularly as thin or as light or as insert description here or
Mm-hmm.
desirable or beautiful description here. And so sometimes we do feel a bit self-conscious that we're not as thin or that the products and
Mm.
clothing available here in this country is not as inclusive. And that does create a
Ah.
negative impact
Mm.
in non-Japanese spaces, maybe non-Japanese spaces that are curvy or taller in sort of spaces. I know
I
oftentimes
see.
when we're looking at the whole of womanhood or the
Mm-hmm.
whole spectrum of womanhood,
Mm-hmm.
younger tends to be viewed favorably, thinner tends to be viewed favorably. And then when we get to the point where we've had the kids and we've gotten married, or I guess we've gotten married and had the kids, the usefulness of womanhood or the desirability of womanhood for that particular woman is no longer there.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes
Ooh.
we feel that, okay, you've done your part, go off to the side, please go over there. Your femininity is no more.
Mm.
And that's not true. And
Yeah.
when we internalize these things, I
Mm.
always wonder when there's talk of desirability of women who are under 25 or who are under 30 or who are
Mm-hmm.
under 40. I always wonder, well, what about the curvy woman whose their child has graduated, they've moved on. What about that woman? That woman is still desirable. She's still beautiful. She's
Yeah.
still of value. But the way that woman may have been treated might not reflect that way. And that woman internalizes those narratives, and it's very detrimenting. And
Mm.
oftentimes, sometimes women seek solace in just going all into the mother role or all into the work role, and they've become successful. But when they actually stop and look at themselves as a woman,
Mm-hmm.
and that sometimes happens during our consultation, there is a pause. There is that, oh, I don't like my skin, or oh, I don't like my shapeliness. I don't like how I look with my hips. I don't like
Mm.
how I look in my breast area.
Yeah.
That negative talk comes back. And sometimes I've even done this myself where I've just worked. I
I
don't want to,
done myself too.
yeah.
It's very interesting that resonate with me, especially myself and also my client. whatever the symptom that we are really facing almost every day, especially at the workplace. We have a shield, protection of, okay, I have to honor myself. I value myself. But when it comes to taking your own photo, it really amazes myself too, how vulnerable we feel about accepting who I really am. So even for myself, I'm 60 and I like a video, or I ask somebody like you to take my photo. Wow, I've grown up. I have to really admit, okay, there's a wrinkle and the skin was not as glowing as I used to be. And I have to be honest about myself. When I realize that, and when I look at the magazine, like Vogue magazine or whatever, the famous actresses or maybe the influencers type of people who are showing themselves up on the Instagram, it's like subconsciously haunting on you to, okay, am I as good as her or whatever? Because I'm an energy coach, I look at some with the energy, but it's so honest how your emotion stays. It really affects everything on camera, right?
Oh, yeah.
So I think there's some kind of a intuitive, like a protection mechanism for me, or maybe even my clients when, okay, I'm not as good as I may think I am. Like that type of thing comes alive, and those are interesting. So you talked about the social norms, about you should, in Japan, you should be slimmer or you should fit this size. No more like 3L or 4L or whatever. That type of social norm is everywhere around the world. So what is it different about like, what catches that photography? Even nowadays, we can actually tweak and make a skin tone different or whatever. But what is it that photography is taking?
It's one of the most requested things that my clients ask for is authenticity. They want to see their true self. So if I'm hearing the backtrack, but I'm also hearing, I want to see me, there is a piece of you that does acknowledge that familiarity of who you are. I'm trying to find a way of how to flatter you or teach you how to photograph in a way that flatters you. You have to flatter yourself.
Exactly.
It's important. And so oftentimes when we see people who have been photographed and they don't like the picture, even though the picture is technically sound, the biggest complaint is
happened to
that
me.
they don't see them. It's, oh, that doesn't look like me. I'm looking at me now in this video and I see all the things that I recognize in me. I see my hair, I see my smile, I see things that are familiar to me. But if I were to be photographed and let's say somebody enhanced my jaw, enhanced my hair, whatever they did, it would be a technically sound photo, but I would not like that photo because I don't see the characteristics of me. I like to laugh a lot. I like to smile a lot. So a photo where I'm like this, I'm not going to like that photo. And so oftentimes people, there is that balance of, okay, I'm not all these things society tells me to be, but I know me. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to find ways and poses that flatter the person and is still them. So that's the point of the consultation. I want to ask, what kind of person are you? Are you a fun-loving person? Are you a serious person? Are you someone who's very determined and dedicated? I'll ask a series of questions just so I can figure out, okay, we're going to do more smiling, but we're not going to smile too big. Or we're going to do something that exudes confidence, but not arrogance. And I'm going to also talk to the person during the photo shoot because I'm studying your visual tics. Do you squint your eyes very often? Do you blink very often? How do you smile? How do you laugh? How do you communicate in your way? And then I just make mental notes of, okay, she likes looking up when she's thinking, or she really likes giving me direct eye contact when she's telling me a story. These are things that I'm looking for because I know you know what you look like when speaking, and I'm trying to normalize those tics in my own mind so that I can bring it out into the photo.
Wow, that's so beautiful. So we are so keen to learn more about it. But before we move on to your 3 very practical tips to advise us to how to look flattering, wearing, could you talk a little bit about, okay, for women over 40 experiencing like a headache or hot flashes, night sweats or whatever, and feeling horrible, right? But somehow you have to be photographed today. And maybe you will be include that tips inside the 3 tips, but is there anything that we can do aside from those like looking good? Is there any advice you can give for those, okay, when you feel horrible, is it better to postpone your photograph session or whatever,
Now, as a photographer, I always feel a little bit saddened when we have to postpone the photo session, but it honestly depends. Back in COVID, there was no question that the photo session was getting postponed if you had COVID.
That's for sure.
I've had some requests where someone's had a cold sore and they had to postpone. Child was sick and they had to keep the child at home. My rule of thumb is that if your mind is not in it, talk to your photographer for whatever reason. If you're sick, if something has happened, if you're distracted, talk to your photographer and see what your photographer can do, or at least listen to your photographer's solutions.
Right.
And if those photographers' solutions are sound enough for you to go ahead and continue, then I'd say go ahead and continue. And what do I mean by that? For example, let's use a practical example. Let's say if it's raining, right? And you have an outdoor shoot. Now, I love rainy day photo shoots.
Wow.
I just grab an umbrella, one of those clear umbrellas from the kombini or the convenience store. I'm going to have fun with it.
Yeah.
And we're going to have fun with it. But it can also be things like, for example, I just had this happen yesterday. A client got some really terrible news, some health-related news, and you just have to give grace.
Sad, yeah.
You have to give grace and you have to give space for that client because they may not be in the right frame of mind to go through with the photo session. And that's totally fine. Like, I get it.
Yeah.
But if it's something like, oh, I have a cold sore, or, oh, I've got some pimples, Photoshop is your friend.
Yeah. Great.
The only time I would really use Photoshop is if it's something that will fade within 2 weeks. That's really how I would do that particular situation. I know sometimes I've had one person say, oh, I'm bloating, and oh, I've gained some weight after my trip to America. Honestly, I can hide 20 pounds with posing alone.
Yeah. So we are going dive into that 3 practical tips from you.
Okay.
And that would be helpful. But even having to chat with your photographer, and I think the trust between photographer and yourself is very important because it's like going to the doctor. I don't want to go to the doctor whom I don't trust. And there's a beautiful exchange of energy when you trust each other. So maybe just talking through with a photographer like Tia, even if I'm feeling a little bit, down, okay, I'm ready for shooting. So it's like those type of communication will be helpful. And just a suggestion is to just take a breath and do a little bit of like energy work to make it feel better. Like listen to music is my thing, but I would really appreciate your suggestion or practical tips on how to really look on camera. So here we go. So could you tell us about your tip number 1?
So the first tip is when you're hoping to be photographed, whether it's for business, a headshot, for pleasure, for your personal use, you should make a good connection with your photographer. And what do I mean by that? A good example is I was talking with a friend yesterday and we were talking about a project that we wanted to do. He wanted to do some writing and juxtapose that with my photos. And I asked him, well, what was his experience with his writing and his own photos for this project that we're putting together.
Mm-hmm.
And he told me about the image that I was referring to for him. And he said, we took about 100 photos and I liked one. And I thought, oh, okay. Can you tell me more about this
Yes,
experience? And he said they had communicated via email and then met soon afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked him, I said, did you have a consultation beforehand? And he
Mm.
said, not really. And I said,
see.
usually I like to have a consultation before the shoot because I want to get
Exactly.
to know you. I want to connect with you. I want to know your vision. I want to
Mm-hmm.
know what a successful photo shoot looks like to
Yeah.
you, or at least give you the opportunity to explore that answer for yourself. I want to teach you my workflow and what that means and how we can make that work for your session. And then just really overall be your friend. I like to treat all of my clients as if they're my best friend. I want them to feel safe around me. No
Mhm.
question is a stupid question. The experience has to be something that they enjoy,
Mhm.
because oftentimes people look at the idea of being photographed as getting a root canal. Nobody likes getting a root canal.
I love it.
So my goal is to really make that experience a fun and enjoyable experience, even if it's for a LinkedIn headshot photo.
I think we want to be mindful
Mm.
about the attitude of the photographer you select so
Mhm.
that you can also feel aligned with what they want to create.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Connection is the first.
Mhm.
And what you really leaned into or segued it nicely in terms of that co-creation.
Mhm.
There's some people who absolutely know what they want. But what about the people who have no idea what they want?
Yes, that happens too, right?
You have to be able to hold space for those clients or for those collaborators.
Mhm.
And so the second point really is to think about what the end goal is. What is your end goal? What would be a success to you as the client or the person being photographed? And how do you get to that point? So what I like to do, very practical tip, is I like to ask people to go, whether it be on Pinterest or whether it be in a magazine, but really go out and explore what you would like to try in a photo shoot.
That's
Yeah.
cool.
It's like a scavenger hunt. And I know for a lot of people that might be triggering because we are purposefully inundating ourselves with images of people that might not look like us or might not or might not fit things as similarly as we do. But again, that goes back to the role of your photographer. That photographer that you work with holds space for you. So if there's a pose that you want to try, let's say if there's an hour-shaped glass body of an image where someone's standing in a particular way and you want to have an image that looks like that, it's up to the photographer to pose you in a way that gets you close to that image, because you can pose any body type in a particular way. There might be a unique way of getting to that point, but every single body type can be posed. And one of my favorite ways, because I'm a curvy person, but one of my favorite ways of posing women is getting that hourglass look or that kind of curvy hourglass look. And the onus is not just always on curvy women. Women who are very slim might not have curves and might also want curves. And being able to work with a photographer who can at least give your body that curvature that maybe you're hoping for as a slim woman is also something that is possible.
Right.
So going back to that previous point, number 2, think about what your end goal is. And I remember I was doing a photo shoot for myself and I wanted a t-shirt, but I wanted a shirt that flattered my body or a shirt that I found myself liking. So I just went to Amazon and I was just window shopping and I was picking shirts that I really liked. And over time, I looked at like just 5 shirts and I saw, okay, I'm picking a lot of light colored shirts and I'm picking a lot of peplum shirts that kind of fan out at the bottom. And I also found that I was picking a lot of shirts with a wide neck. And so that told me, okay, I really like wide neck shirts and I really like peplum shirts. So that directed me in the direction of purchasing just those types of shirts.
Ah,
I'm not wearing a white neck shirt, but I am wearing a peplum shirt
yes, yes, yes.
right now.
That's yes, yes. So
Um,
finding what feels good at the moment and what you want that picture or image to look like,
mhm,
that would help greatly. And then you can communicate with your
mhm.
photographer, right?
Exactly. It makes it easier for the photographer to get to your vision and really bring your vision to light. The photographer should still hold space for if you don't have a vision yet, but they should really give you some tools to guide you into a direction where you discover what you would like for your image.
Oh, love it. Love it.
Mhm.
That's beautiful. The
So,
last
top
one,
tip
right?
number 3, it's very simple, super simple. It's just have fun with it.
Ah, I love it.
Have fun. And I know it sounds like a silly throwaway piece of advice, but hear me out. Recently, last month, I went to Arizona, and every year I go to Arizona for a photographers conference.
Oh,
There, photographers all over the world come and we learn the newest and latest gadgets and techniques and things like that. But
mm-hmm.
this is an opportunity for me to meet my favorite photographer, and I
Wow.
wanted my favorite photographer to photograph me. So I did what all
Amazing.
of my clients do with me. I did the consultation, I paid my session fee, and I wanted this photographer to photograph me.
Wow.
Now, of course, I'm really excited, and then I get to the day of the photo shoot and I'm really nervous. And I'm
Mm.
sitting here, no, I can't be nervous because it'll show in the photo that I'm nervous.
Mm-hmm.
So I tell the photographer, I say, hey, can we just throw on some music and just have
Ah,
fun? And he was just like, yeah, we'll put some music on. And we put on some recent hits that he liked and I liked. And we were just dancing around. And the moment I stopped being worried about what the photo would look like was the time I had fun, I felt confident, and I felt like I could fly. Like it didn't matter what the photo looked like. I knew it was going to capture me and my truest emotion, which was just
mm.
having fun with this photographer.
No. Wow.
And I just got the photos this past Saturday.
What did you
And
find?
and I love them so much. I've got these 3 photos here, and I've got an extra space here, and this is where I want to put that photo.
Wow. Look,
But
look
I'm super
fascinating.
excited. And I realized I felt that moment, the moment I stopped feeling nervous and worried about what to do was when I had the best fun. And those photos were the ones that I picked, that were the ones I had fun in.
Your tip brought me chills right now because having fun is like enlightening your spirit and
Yeah.
free up your energy. It's
Hmm.
all that everything come alive.
Yeah.
And once you are wise enough to bring that music on and
Hmm.
having that playful ground, safe space, then what you brought is a really free spirit flowing,
Hmm.
and the photographer you respect so much captured the right moment. And
Yeah.
that even excites me of what photography can do for you
Hmm.
to even elevate. When you just take a look at the past photo, it might bring you more joy. Oh, I had that fun moment.
I also thought about, because I know some people are not particularly fun loving, I might replace the word have fun with enjoy the moment or be present in the
Mm-hmm.
moment.
Mm-hmm.
I think those might be words that you can come around if fun is not in your vocabulary.
Yeah, yeah,
um,
yeah.
but I don't know. I'm going back in my head of clients who are very particular and clients who have a specific idea. And I'm always thinking about how focused they are. And they're very focused. And I'm thinking like that moment you just let it go.
Yeah,
You start, that authentic self comes out. Another
yeah.
thing is when you're very camera aware, you lose that sense of self.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking to you, I'm having a conversation. I'm not sitting here posing myself and smiling on demand. I try very hard not to tell people to smile. I try to tell people to do other things that they focus on that gets me an authentic smile. Because when we force a smile, we just look like we enjoy being constipated. So
Mm.
I'm trying to come up with ways that bring out that authentic sense of self or that self that you're familiar with.
you are suggesting to have a connection with a photographer and
Yes.
have this clear end image,
Mhm.
what you want to take out of the photo.
Mhm.
And then lastly, just have fun.
Yeah. Mhm.
Could you take me a little bit, bring to the story you talked about your mom?
Mhm.
Because I think it's highly resonated with
Mm.
us all.
Of
And
course.
just taking your tips, you can have more fun with yourself. I mean,
Yeah.
right?
A bit about my mom. So she was an amazing person. She was a nurturer and she always put other people first or other people ahead of her.
Mm-hmm.
She passed away 3 years ago.
Yeah,
And
that's so sad.
as we were looking through her things and trying to collect her things and finalize her estate, we realized we didn't particularly have any photos. I've got one photo up here that's a snapshot of me with her at one. I just got her old high school portrait, and those are really the only 2 points of time I have of her in my possession. I think that sometimes with mothers, because they're such nurturers, they put their children first. And they, even with me as a photographer,
Mm-hmm.
I'm encouraging mom to join in on the session.
Mm-hmm.
And I often hear, oh, it's just the kids. Oh, focus on the kids. And it
Yeah,
is,
that's all.
I understand the sentiment, but it's also a disservice to the children because
Yeah.
they don't have a milestone or visual milestone of their mother at that time or a time or any time. And so I always encourage mothers, just as you're photographing your children at those points of time, create a space and time and opportunity for yourself to have a photo shoot, even just for fun, even just for personal development, even just for personal discovery, but also for a legacy. What images of yourself will your children have in the years to come? I do think it's important to have a legacy image or legacy photo of yourself, not just for your benefit, but also your children's and next generation's benefit.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing this beautiful story of your mom. And I'm
Thank you.
sure she was a lovely person, but also just taking that as our lesson to be courageous enough to just to show up, of course, for yourself, but
Mm,
it might light up your children too, or maybe grandchildren. And
mm.
then they're going to feel like, okay, my mom was here. We had such a fun time. And that's so beautiful about it. Is there anything that you want to share with the ladies over 40? And especially you can talk about your project that you're so passionate about.
Oh, thank you. So this year, 2023, I decided to do a project called the 40 over 40 experience. It's 40 women who are over 40 being photographed in our studio in ways that empower them. The goal was to take what we talked about and really create an opportunity for women to explore themselves, explore what style of fashion or photography that they enjoy or feel their most authentic self, or maybe even just to try for the first time and capture them.
Yes,
And all 40 women, there is an exhibition that's coming up in December from December 7th to December 9th, where they'll be featured, all 40, and all 40 ladies will come together, and guests as well, will come together December 9th from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. for a special event. If you're curious about learning more or seeing the participating women and meeting them in person, you're welcome to visit us at the Ryozan Park Gallery Mugen, and I'm happy to share the link and information with you, Miyako, if that's all right.
If you're lucky enough to live in Japan and around, you can move around Tokyo, then we would love to visit your exhibition and get inspired of those beautiful women over 40 who were in your project, right?
Thank you. It was a really popular project. There is a waiting list.
Yes, I'm going to be joining the wait list because I didn't know about this project until we met and have chat for this interview, right?
What we're going to do is we're going to do a new project next year.
Yes.
I'll announce the theme for the project at the exhibition.
That's lovely. So thank you so much for joining this interview and also sharing your beautiful insights about what photography can do for us. So tell us, how can we connect with you? What's the best way to connect with you?
Oh, absolutely. So our website is toptia.com, toptia.com. We also have a monthly newsletter that you could subscribe to. Once you click on the website, there's a prompt encouraging you to join. But if you want to reach out to us for just any questions you may have, you can reach out to us at info at toptia.com.
Yeah, so lovely to have this conversation. And I think we talk really deeper about showing up not for others, especially like society norms who you are expecting, but standing up and showing up for yourself and to have self-discovery and see your glowing photo by Tia.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And so excited to see your project flourishing next year.
Likewise. I can't wait to present it to everyone.
Thank you so much, dear.
Thank you.
Bye. And here's the exciting part. I have a special gift for you that can truly make a difference in your life. It's my free guide called Unlocking the 5 Hidden Gems for Perimenopause Symptoms Relief. This guide empowers you to find natural relief and unleash your inner radiance without relying on supplements or hormones. Inside, you'll discover the secrets to naturally finding relief from your symptoms. I'll guide you through challenges that are often misunderstood, helping you find effective solutions that have worked for many women just like you. Imagine saying goodbye to restless nights and those annoying hot flashes, and embracing life with renewed energy and vibrancy. What would that look like for you? This guide is your first step toward menopause revolution. Click the link in the description below to instantly access your free guide and join me on this amazing journey to your vibrant self in your prime years. Thank you so much for watching, and I can't wait to see you in my next video. Bye!